should never have existed. It never should have been extended because that notion of abortion.
카메라가 휘었네. 귀찮네요. 만지기도 귀찮네. 안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕호입니다. 오늘은 토요일이에요. 6월 오늘 며칠이지? 6월 25일? 오늘 6.25. 맞습니다. 오늘 6월 25일입니다, 여러분. 보자. 내일 영어 시험 봅니다. 오픽 시험. 올해 두 번째 시험이에요. 여전히 스크립트는 준비 안 하고 있고요. 계속 그냥 제가 하던 대로 영어 회화 공부를 하고 있습니다. 근데 이게 약간 심리적인 압박이 약간 있긴 해요. 솔직히 1급을 따야 되는데 스크립트를 준비해야 되는 거 아니냐, 약간 이런 내적 갈등이 좀 심하긴 합니다. 하지만 애초에 저의 영어 공부에 대한 목표는 원활한 의사소통이에요. 진짜 미국인들과 영어로서 의사소통을 하는 게 가장 큰 목표였기 때문에 그 목표를 채우기 위해 계속 오픽을 보도록 하겠습니다. 스크립트 없이 AL 받기. 네, 그게 진정한 AL 아니겠습니까? 귀찮아. 자, 확실히 이쪽을 풀어주니까 한의원에 가도 여기를 많이 풀어주거든요. 근육 뭉친 데를, 여기를. 진짜 여기 목을 안 풀고 다리랑 여기만 푸는데 이쪽 목에 대한 통증이 사라지거든요. 그래서 일단 스트레칭 조금 하고, 역시나 팔굽혀펴기랑 윗몸 일으키기 위주로 오늘의 운동을 하도록 하겠습니다. 장마가 시작이 돼서 비가 오기 시작했죠. 엊그저께는 비가 참 많이 왔습니다. 어제랑 오늘은 좀 흐리네요. 많이 덥진 않은데 그래도 더워서 일단 에어컨을 틀었습니다. 현재 실내 온도는 29도, 에어컨은 25도로 맞춰놨습니다. 운동을 하도록 하겠습니다. 역시 운동을 할 때 시간이죠.
For the first time in 50 years, daughters, granddaughters are going to have fewer rights in the United States than the generation before them, as Laura Coates has pointed out in our conversation before. Is that sinking in tonight? Do you think people understand the magnitude of this change?
I do. And certainly, as you were highlighting the many protests that are going on around the country, there was a rally that I just attended in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with hundreds, it was building, so to get to thousands of women and their families and partners, and they're bringing their children. And it is not lost on them that these decisions, including now expanding access and protections for gun owners, we've got Citizens United that protects freedom of speech through monetary giving to corporations. So we're going in the opposite direction in terms of protecting people's rights for women in every aspect. And not having the same rights as my mother and my grandmother is so chilling. It's hard, frankly, to say it out loud, but I think this is more than just a debate for today. I think you're going to see women and their families motivated. And we're motivated not just for ourselves, but for the next generation of women who are depending on us to get this right.
I wonder why. I've been wondering about that and asking, when I have guests like you on, if it's going to be a motivating factor. Perhaps it could be a suppressing factor, or maybe not at all. Maybe people will just stay home because who knows. But do you really think it's going to motivate people to go to the polls or to become politically
involved? I tell you
involved?
that I'm going to treat it as such. You bet. This is a state that has long fought for equal rights.
Let me ask you this way, Governor, not to interrupt, let me ask you this way. Do you think that this will backfire for Republicans?
I think it will, and it deserves to. This is not how you build a democracy. This is how you rip it apart. And preventing women and their families to have equal protections under the law, and basically having Justice Thomas declare that everything now can be revisited, that there are no precedents, that you and religion, I think is a message to voters that this is not just a single issue anymore, not even a moral debate. The democracy, in fact, by virtue of the politicization of this and related issues, is now a call to action to save the democracy. And you think that the insurrection would be enough, but I think this is the tipping point today with the victim.
So it's interesting because you have said that New Mexico has already seen an influx of people seeking abortions from other states. Texas had recently banned most abortions after 6 weeks. Are you expecting a bigger influx now?
We're seeing it. We already have folks from Texas into New Mexico, volunteers, and quite frankly, religious organizations who are supporting that, the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Justice, coordinating those efforts, because this is a state that believes in protecting all women, but it is also then an access issue. As you have nearly, with all of the potential bans, current bans, all these sort of tipping clause in the mix, you have half the country looking for access to abortion. That is a unique position for every state. I think every Democratic governor is standing up all of their providers and access issues, readying, if you will. But that is also, I think, sort of part of this dilemma. Can we all assure equal access in U.S. states? And the answer is not unless we do something about Roe v. Wade and get it codified across the country.
Governor,
That is the only way.
we really appreciate you joining us this evening. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, your
Don,
perspective.
thank you
and
for
opinion.
having me today.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
Republicans got what they wanted, what they have wanted really for decades, a conservative majority court that would overturn Roe v. Wade. But are they ready for the political consequences of taking away a right Americans have had for nearly 50 years?
This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Personal freedoms are on the ballot. The right to privacy, liberty, equality, are all on the ballot.
Art is a universal language that inspires people to make a difference and to think about the situation. It doesn't only touch their mind, it touches their soul. My name is Audrey Decker, and I am the co-founder of Street Art for Mankind. Today, there are 152 million children, 1 child out of 10, who is suffering from child labor. Street Art for Mankind is a non-profit organization that believe in art for social change, and that's what we do with big murals made by artists from all around the world. We started Street Art for Mankind around the fight against child labor and trafficking, and we have a series of murals in the financial district of New York, which are called the Freedom Murals. We also have a billboard campaign that we did, and that's called the Free Children campaign. And this one we did with the street artists, but also with people who are really involved in the cause, such as Ashley Judd, Mira Sorvino, Kailash Satyarthi, Siddharth Kara, and also Nick Kristof. Our dream for Street Art for Mankind is really to create outdoor museums everywhere around the world, to have this capacity to inspire people and create art.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us. I'm Becky Anderson in Tehran. We are in Jerusalem. Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why. I just want to press you on one further point. Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. Observing countries on the move, still rooted in tradition. It all starts here, and that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson, Monday through Friday on CNN.
So overturning Roe v. Wade has been a major goal of the Republican Party for decades and a winning strategy really for GOP candidates. And with today's landmark decision, that goal is now accomplished. But it comes with real consequences. As I mentioned earlier, at least 13 states have so-called trigger laws, anti-abortion laws that take effect today or in the days to follow. I want to discuss now with CNN political commentators Alice Stewart and Ashley Allison. Good evening to both of you. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Doug.
Alice, anti-abortion Republicans have wanted this for years, and today the day came. But do you think they're prepared for the political ramifications of finally getting what you want when it's something that the majority of the country does not want?
Well, pro-life Republicans have been fighting for this ever since Roe was first enacted nearly 50 years ago. And yes, they have begun, as soon as this was announced today, they left the steps of the state capitol, in part because they were being threatened by the pro-choice advocates. But they left and immediately began the next step, which is working to elect and enact legislation on the state level that further solidifies the pro-life issue. And they're working to put officials at the state level that will continue the work that has been done with regard to protecting the sanctity of life. Look, pro-life advocates understand this was the right decision by the courts. Justice Alito said that Roe was wrong and egregious from the very start, and it's time to put this back in the hands of elected representatives. And that's exactly what happened here. This took the important policy issue of abortion out of the hands of unelected justices and put it in the hands of elected officials. And a decision like this and choices like this are best served for the people by people that are closest to the people.
Ashley, I want you to respond to what Alice said.
Well, Justice Alito, first of all, lied. All the justices that helped to overturn this 50-year precedent in their confirmation hearings lied. So they were not honest and truthful. Second, we know, today I was on calls all day with voters, activists, organizers. A lot were upset, a lot were sad, and felt gutted because this is a very sad day in our country. But the other thing that I definitely heard was determination. So while those lawmakers today may be doing all they can to codify and make sure that abortion is illegal, voters are mobilizing. And I am confident they will lose their seat, not just in Congress, not just in the Senate, but in governor's races, state legislatures races, city council races. This country does not want to go back to a time when women do not have bodily autonomy and choices over their body. It is a matter of privacy. It was a matter of law, and they gutted it. And I think they will pay severe consequences. Sure, the pro-life movement can think it's the right decision, but the pro-life movement is not a part of the majority of Americans and what we want. And in November, they will have to pay for their consequences.
Well, that gets to the heart of the question that I asked you early, Alice, just before this, because there's a new CNN poll, not a new poll, but a CNN poll is from Maine. It shows that 66% of Americans do not want Roe v. Wade overturned. And you heard what Ashley just said. The former president as well is calling this the biggest win for life in a generation. But Maggie Haberman of the New York Times is reporting that Trump has been privately warning that overturning Roe would be bad for the Republican Party. He reportedly said that it would anger suburban women. There are many independents and even Republicans who don't support this decision. So again, same question, but I'm posing it in a different way. Do you think Republicans are going to pay a price for that?
If he truly felt that way, he would not have been so vocal and so adamant about appointing the justices that he appointed to the Supreme Court the goal and the hope was for this day that we had today, for them to overturn Roe v. Wade. And look.
But to the heart of what he said, though, but I understand what he said. But to the heart of, do you think it's going to anger Republican women? Because there are Republican women who support the right to choose. There are lots of independent women, or not, and not just women, but people all across the country. Do you think Republicans are going to pay the price come November of 2022 and November of 2024?
I truly don't, Don, because Republicans have been fighting for this day for decades. And look, this is going to mobilize people on both sides.
Suburban women. I said Republican women. I'm sorry. Go on.
This is going to mobilize people on both sides. Ashley is completely right. The pro-choice community is pissed. They are angry. They are hurt, and they are going to galvanize, and they're going to organize, and they're going to turn out the vote. But at the same time, Republicans will do the same thing. Pro-life conservatives will do so. And the latest CNN poll that we've also had with regard to the motivation and the enthusiasm for registered voters, Republicans have a 3-point greater enthusiasm for voters than Democrats. So that also is going to turn out Republican voters. Look, this is something that has been unifying conservatives for years. And we have had an eye not just on the pro-life issues, but on appointing justices on the state and federal and the U.S. Supreme Court. This has been a big issue for Republicans. I've worked on every presidential campaign I've worked on. We have talked about this. Democrats have not. They did not acknowledge and didn't notice the value and importance of this.
Let me get to Ashley, because I want to ask you that question. Listen, there are many people who support the right to choose, who are angry at Democrats and say that Democrats have been asleep at the wheel when it comes to the Second Amendment, when it comes to Roe v. Wade and the right when it comes to the right to vote as well. Why are Democrats, who are the majority, or in the majority in the House, in the Senate, and the White House, and even in the country, Democrats and independents, why is this happening? Do you think Democrats, your own party, is to blame for this or bear some responsibility for this?
Look, I think we have to do a better job with engaging voters, not just in one election cycle, but in every single cycle. We keep saying that this is an issue and a plan that has been a part of the Republican strategy for 20 years. So when I think about that, I think about 2004, when George W. Bush ran on partial birth abortions. Now, he never did anything actually in his term on policy about it, but you know what he did do? In 2005, he got Justice Roberts, and in 2006, he got Justice Alito. And they were the ones for years plotting for this moment right now. So in November, I think...
Hang on, Ashley.
Yeah.
That's my point, though. You're talking about what Republicans did, but what did Democrats do or not do?
We have to remain consistent. And we do have the majority, but we also know that the rules of the Senate, even though we have a majority, the filibuster blocks it. So we need to abolish the filibuster and move this bill to codify
But the
Roe.
filibuster is there when Republicans are in charge as well.
And they will change the laws too. That's the thing, is that Republican justices lie when they get confirmed, and they will change the law when they have power. And I do think Democrats need to act and do whatever they can to pass gun reform. I'm glad to see the bill last night. Whatever they need to do to pass and codify Roe. We people are outraged. And one thing I will just say is, this is not just about a woman's right to choose. It is very clear, and people should take note. They are coming for everyone. If you are not a white conservative male, they want to take your rights away. This time it's abortion. Next time it will be marriage equality. The next time they've already done voting rights. Every right we have fought so hard for is at stake right now, and they wrote the playbook in their concurring opinion and in their opinion today. So voters need to take note. It has to be a continuous engagement, and we need to elect people who will be bold and will remove the laws that prevent us to move this country forward where the majority of the people want it to actually be.
You know what? I've got to run, Alice. But
Don, it's important to point out that that's not factually accurate. Justice Alito said this ruling pertains only to abortion, not any of the other privacy, constitutionally protected portions.
Read the concurring opinion.
Did you read the concurring opinion from?
Yes.
From Justice Clarence Thomas.
From Thomas, I certainly did.
And those who supported what happened today have been saying, or had said all along, there's no way they're going to go for same-sex marriage, or there's no way they're going to do that, or this or that. And Clarence Thomas is saying exactly that. exactly what people who support the right to choose have been saying. If we give up this right, they're going to go for the other thing. And Clarence Thomas seems to be saying that. Not seems to be saying that. He is saying that.
He is saying it.
Well, and Alito said that's absolutely not the case because those
But this is not
protected
Alito's
rights.
court
He
anymore. You
also
know
said
that,
it
Alice.
wasn't the case that
Alice,
he would
whose court
overturn
is it?
50
Is it
years of
Alito or
precedent
is it
if he
Thomas?
lied.
The point is that he was the one that the lead voice on this and said that the other privacy protected rights do not affect the life of a human being, and abortion does, and that is why this is separate. It's not in the same constitutionally protected area as abortion is.
We have to remember.
Don,
this
I just gotta say, we can't take their word. They lied in their confirmation hearing, and then we'll lie in these opinions that they write. Everyone's rights are at stake. We need to wake up. We need to vote not in 22, just in 22, 24, and for more elections to come.
Thank you all. And look, this is an abortion case right now. We'll see what's to come. And I do have to say, coming up a little bit later on at 11 o'clock hour, we have Jim Obergefell, who actually helped to get same-sex marriage right by suing the government or what have you, or by challenging it, will be on this program. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Alice. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Don.
New York's Attorney General says that the state will be a safe haven for anyone wanting an abortion. She speaks out from a protest right after this.
I'm Becky Anderson, 200 meters above the city of Dubai. This is CNN.
Welcome to The Lead. We begin with breaking news. The United States has plunged into a recession. We're seeing infections at an all-time high. What's your reaction to that? Here are the facts.
The Lead with Jake Tapper. When you follow a story, you may be asked to take risks. And sometimes go down a path that's not marked.
Where Iraqi troops would pre-position and these Americans would advise them. These protests are a test for Hamas. Any understanding between Israel and Gaza could quickly fall apart again. The protesters are just outside a military base. They're throwing rocks and security forces firing tear gas.
When you dare to take risks, you witness passion and persistence.
And they just want to get their past be processed so they can get out of this facility.
And that's where change happens.
The one thing they have in common is a determination to keep going.
When you think of Africa, you think of a lion. There's no feeling more primal than walking in the bush, knowing there are lions around. It's almost like a rewilding of the self. One of the central principles of rewilding is actually to manage an ecosystem less. It's to give nature back to nature, give nature back to itself. It's not just about bringing back a species that existed maybe 300 or 400 years ago. Rewilding is also about bringing back the ecosystem. It's a key role, really, that they play in controlling herbivore numbers, in enabling the felt itself, the red grass, very palatable grasses, to actually regenerate themselves as well. To me, to take a step back and sort of realize that we're a part of nature rather than apart from it.
making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
So many questions about what is the government doing. Do you get the anger that's out here? How concerned are you about the front line? You don't believe that there's a ratio.
여기까지만 하겠습니다.
Looking back, as president, did you tell the story?
출근해야 돼.
All the places I've been and all the things I've seen, all the people I've talked